In my last video I was talking about things that you could do in your garden to improve it for wildlife, and one of the things that I mentioned was bug hotels, and in that I probably gave some bad advice. And it was pointed out to me that you can, by doing it in the wrong way, you can actually cause infections among solitary bee populations, which is not really what we want to be doing. And so I thought that I would update it and give you some of the information that I got from the comment section of that video, but also from a PDF that I'm going to put as a link below that you can go and find, which is from an entomologist, Mark something. What was his surname? Anyway, I'll put it on the screen now, and in the description I'll put the PDF where he has the list. But if you didn't come to YouTube in order to read, which is understandable, I'll just go through some of the things that he suggests. One is that you can use a bee post, which is just where you have a block of wood, which could be an untreated block of wood that you attach to a fence post, and you drill a number of different size holes in it. It could be untreated wood, or it could be really old rafters that you find that have been taken out of old roofs. But what he did suggest is if you do use those bee posts or blocks like this, is that you ought to replace them about every 2 years. The other suggestion is to line each of these holes with straws, so you can remove the straws, put them somewhere dry, allow the bee larvae to hatch, leaving it clean for the next year where you can then reline it. Or you just don't keep them for longer than 2 years, because it's difficult to clean out the holes unless you have one of the ones that you can take apart and clean them out. The other thing to remember is that if you're drilling holes into wood like this, try to avoid leaving splinters, because they're less popular for bees to occupy. And if you have one of these, which was just a piece of drain pipe that's packed with bamboo, remember to drill out any of the pith that's in the middle, which is technically known as taking the pith. And unless you've got really sharp secateurs, then you probably won't be able to just cut them with secateurs, because they make them really splintery and they're not going to be very much use to bees either. And the cap I've used, I just had a drainage cap that I put on there, but I know that postal tube bungs have also been used, which are cheaper, especially if you buy them in bulk. And I don't know how, but I've managed to make it look like an IED. You want them to be fairly secure, and unlike what I suggested in the last video, where I said you might just leave them and allow the bees to emerge after the winter, although this one is under the space of a roof, so it doesn't really get dripped on, it stays pretty dry here. They like it dry, but they do need the cold. So somewhere like an unheated shed, a porch, or somewhere that's just dry and cold is going to be the ideal place to allow them to overwinter before you take them back out to allow them to emerge in the spring. Anyway, I hope I've corrected anything that I mentioned in the previous video that was misleading or just bad advice, and go and enjoy your bee hotels and enjoy seeing them get occupied by all sorts of different solitary bees and solitary wasps. Thanks very much, and I'll see you again soon, where I've got a video about planting and its impact on wildlife in your garden, which I did promise, and it's in the making. I promise it'll be with you soon.